Section 7.1 Percents, Decimals, Fractions. In this video we will learn the meaning of percent and how to change a percent to a fraction, how to change a percent to a decimal, how to change a decimal to a percent, and two techniques for changing a fraction to a percent. In the square shown in Figure 7.1, a large square has been partitioned into 10 rows of 10 little squares in each row. In Figure 7.1, we've shaded 20 of 100 possible little squares, or 20% of the total number of little squares. The meaning of percent. Percent means parts per hundred. In Figure 7.1, 80 out of a possible 100 squares are left unshaded. Thus 80% of the little squares are unshaded. If instead we shaded 35 out of 100 squares, then 35% of the little squares would be shaded. If we shaded all of the little squares, then 100% of the little squares would be shaded, 100 out of 100. So when you hear the word percent, think parts per 100. Changing a percent to a fraction. Based on the discussion above, it is fairly straightforward to change a percent to a fraction. To change a percent to a fraction, drop the percent sign and put the number over 100. Example 1. Change 24% to a fraction. Solution. Drop the percent symbol and put 24 over 100. Reduce to get 6 over 25, hence 24% equals 6 over 25. Example 2. Change 14 2/7% to a fraction. Solution. Drop the percent symbol and put 14 2/7 over 100. Change 14 2/7 to improper fraction 100 over 7. Then we're just dividing 100 over 7 by 100 over 1, so we will invert and multiply the second fraction to get 100 over 7 times 1 over 100. Cancel the hundreds that are in common, and we're left with 1 over 7 when we multiply. Hence, 14 2/7% equals 1 over 7. Change 28.4% to a fraction. Solution. Drop the percent symbol and put 28.4 over 100. If we multiply numerator and denominator by 10, we get 284 over 1,000. Then, if we factor 284 into 71 times 4 and 1,000 into 250 times 4, we can cancel the common factor 4, and we're left with 71 over 250. Changing a percent to a decimal. To change a percent to a decimal, we need only remember that percent means parts per hundred. Example 4. Change 23.25% to a decimal. Solution. Drop the percent symbol, put 23.25 over 100. Then, dividing by 100 moves the decimal point 2 places left, so we get 23.25 equals 0.2325. Therefore, 23.25% equals 0.2325. This last example motivates the following simple rule. Changing a percent to a decimal. To change a percent to a decimal, drop the percent symbol and move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Example 5. Change 5.5% to a decimal. Solution. Note that 1/2 equals 0.5, then move the decimal 2 places to the left. 5.5% equals 5.5%. First, we'll drop the percent symbol, then we'll move the decimal point 2 places to the left to get 0.055. Thus, 5.5% equals 0.055. Changing a decimal to a percent. Changing a decimal to a percent is the exact opposite of changing a percent to a decimal. In the latter case, we drop the percent symbol and move the decimal point 2 places to the left. The following rule does just the opposite. Changing a decimal to a percent. To change a decimal to a percent, move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add a percent symbol. Example 6. Change 0.0725 to a percent. Solution. Move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add a percent symbol to get 7.25%. Example 7. Change 1.025 to a percent. Solution. Move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add a percent symbol to get 102.5%. Changing a fraction to a percent. One way to proceed is to first change the fraction to a decimal, then change the resulting decimal to a percent. Fractions to percents. Technique number 1. To change a fraction to a percent, follow these steps. 1. Divide numerator by the denominator to change the fraction to a decimal. 2. Move the decimal point in the result 2 places to the right and append a percent symbol. Example 8. Use technique number 1 to change 5 over 8 to a percent. Solution. Change 5 over 8 to a decimal, then change the decimal to a percent. To change 5 over 8 to a decimal, divide 5 by 8. Since the denominator is a product of 2's, the decimal should terminate. Hence, the decimal is 0.625. To change 0.625 to a percent, move the decimal point 2 places to the right and append a percent symbol to get 62.5%. So 5 over 8 equals 62.5%. A second technique is to create an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Fractions to percents, technique number 2. To change a fraction to a percent, create an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Example 9. Use technique number 2 to change 5 over 8 to a percent. Solution. Create an equivalent fraction for 5 over 8 with a denominator of 100. So 5 over 8 equals some fraction with numerator x over denominator of 100. We'll solve this proportion for x. Cross multiply to get 8x equals 500. And divide both sides by 8. On the left we get x, and on the right 500 divided by 8 is 125 over 2. And 125 divided by 2 is 62.5. Thus 5 over 8 equals 62.5 over 100 equals 62.5%. Alternate ending. We could also change 125 over 2 to a mixed fraction, i.e. 125 over 2 equals 62.5. Then 62.5 over 100 equals 62.5%. Same answer. Sometimes we will be content with an approximation. Example 10. Change 4 over 13 to a percent. Round your answer to the nearest tenth of a percent. Solution. We will use technique number 1. To change 4 over 13 to a decimal, divide 4 by 13. Since the denominator has factors other than 2's and 5's, the decimal will repeat. However, we intend to round to the nearest tenth of a percent, so we will carry the division to 4 decimal places only. 4 places are necessary because we will be moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. To change the decimal to a percent, move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So we had 0.3076. If we move the decimal 2 places to the right, we get 30.76, and if we add a percent symbol, we get 30.76%. To round to the nearest tenth of a percent, identify the rounding and test digits. Because the test digit is greater than or equal to 5, add 1 to the rounding digit and truncate. Thus, 0.03076 approximately equals 30.8%.